Welcome to Go Sports Live. I'm Matty Marshall. I got Ryan Brand in the seat today. Got a decent amount of stuff to talk about as the 2021 season is rapidly approaching. We are also going to be talking about the Paintball Pro School, PP Pro School, the new clinic summoning device that just dropped. So Ryan's going to give us some information about that and how that's all going down. Going to be talking, obviously, Ryan, legendary coach, series champs, X Factor, one of the best teams, if not the best team in the world. We're obviously find that out again in 2021. Going to be talking about his team, just lost a player. Anyway, Ryan, we got a lot to talk about, so let's just jump right into it. First of all, first things first, how you doing, man? How you feeling? How's the family?
I'm doing good. It's a cold day here in Texas. It's actually like 30 degrees, but other than that, everything's going great.
Yeah, I heard the cold snap's coming your way, so stay bundled up as much as you can. I don't know how much paintball is going to be getting played in Texas, particularly northern Texas, this weekend, but you guys are born hard down there, so I'm guess some people are going to be out playing. Looks like we might have lost Ryan for a second. Hopefully not. But yeah, so things to that we got to discuss with Ryan today. Hopefully he'll jump right back on. If not, we'll reset and get him back on. Oh, I can hear him. Ryan, you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We're back.
All right. Hopefully we're back. It looked less pixelated this time. All right. So let's jump into it real quick. First off, obviously we got the new Paintball Pro School thing to kind of break down. So let's dive right into that. Who's involved? How's that going down? How do people get more information? Because it dropped it. First of all, I love the name because, definitely that's been, I've always liked that name for clinics, like a pro school, because that's kind of what it is. I mean, you are going to school with the pros. So, obviously there's BKI's got their thing going on. This seems to be a little bit different. So I don't know. I hit you up immediately as you're a smart dude. And when I want things clarified in an intelligent manner, you're one of the guys I like to hit up when you're involved with certain things. So let's dive into that.
Okay, yeah. PD Pro School, it came together. We started talking about it probably about in the middle of this summer, of this kind of long no paintball off season before World Cup. And how it came to be is I did a 4 or 5 day camp with Ronnie Dizon, Chad Boucher, Keith Brown, and Chad George. And we did a camp up in Chicago, and we were kind of getting to spend a little bit more time, with that amount of time. It's a longer clinic than I've ever done before at 4 days, and kind of seeing the process and how that all went on. And I just kind of realized that doing these clinics, while they're great, and I think, BKI does a great job. There's a lot of other people who do really good jobs. It's difficult when you're training 30 people at once from 30 different teams, or from 5 different teams or something like that. And I'm kind of looking at it that a lot's lost in like team cohesion. And so kind of what we're looking to set up a little bit more is that while we're going to do these clinics and that kind of thing, we want to work more with the teams themselves and kind of place pros with teams at their local practices for either their to help them train for a tournament, just train in general to get better, or actually go and coach them at the local events or the regional tournaments. And that's kind of the main basis. Now, once we went live, we got a lot of interest from people wanting to actually do like one-on-one personal training, a lot of interest for clinics and those types of things as well. And we're, of course, going to do that. I think there's a lot of strength and stuff to learn from and grow at these clinics. And if there's one near you, you should go do a clinic, whether it's with us or BKI or anyone else. I think a lot gets lost of people just not taking the knowledge that's been gained and earned by these pros over the course of their careers, and not going out there and seeking it as a player.
Yeah, this is definitely a common theme that we've had over the years. That I've had multiple conversations with all the guys that are the leading lights in clinics. I think guys like yourself, I mean, this is why I kind of wanted to dive into, every time we get a chance to get you in the seat and have this conversation with you, is kind of dive into the intricacies and how kind of difficult it is to, coach teams like San Antonio X Factor. It's a very difficult proposition to coach a paintball team, period, when you have that many good paintball players in one area. I mean, there's just, the whole too many cooks spoiling the pot type situation. And to be able to manage all that is very difficult. And then to take that information and distill it down into something that's pliable, something that's repeatable, and something that you can take and give to somebody as, a consumable, piece of information that they can then take that back to their people. I mean, I really feel that, I don't care what you're doing. I mean, try to get good at jujitsu by just going and rolling around with your buddy in the parking lot. Do you think that is going to be the way that you're going to figure out how to do, jujitsu properly? Absolutely not. Try to hit a golf ball well without somebody telling you how to hit a golf ball. That's going to be a long and frustrating road. Same thing with paintball. And since this is, paintball is an experience which the better that you do, the more fun you have. Taking a direct mainline hit to your brain with information from people that have been there, done it, learned the hard way. It's just so ridiculously simply, like, obviously blatant that's the easiest and quickest way. Obviously, there's a fee associated with that, but you're already paying money to play paintball and play tournaments. So, this is just something that I've always been a huge fan of. Just because I wish that when I was coming up that I could have gone and had cut years off the learning curve of certain skills and just got that information and, paid a premium for that, because, that's the world, man. There's so many learnable things out there. Obviously your hard work, your talent, how well you can actually play. I mean, that's something that's subjective and it takes time, but yeah, man, I'm just always a huge fan of the clinic scene. And I'm really glad that and also the more people involved, the better. So you go take a clinic from Ryan Greenspan. The next week you go get Keith Brown to come out. Like, you're going to get similar information, but you're going to get it in different ways. Like, why do you read? People read different books to get a different information from different authors. A lot of the times it's very similar information, but it's said in a different way. And sometimes it's going to stick. You got to hear things more than once. Just because somebody tells you how to do something once doesn't mean you're going to figure it out. My dad would get super frustrated with me about that sort of thing. He was that dad that was like, I've told you it once. How have you not mastered this yet? But that's reality, So I think that I'm really glad you guys are wading into this. I think it's an awesome thing. So who's kind of involved, and I mean, who's on the roster? How do people, like, is there, just give us some call to action here. Where's the website?
Before I dig into that, I kind of wanted to touch on some of the stuff you were saying there about how, yes, there's a cost involved and how paintball is fun. And I think that's two of the things that are, paintball is inherently, it's an expensive sport. It just is. And it's also very fun to play. And what I see a lot down in San Antonio and the other fields I visit is I go out there, and every time I'm there, it's the same divisional teams, and they're out there playing and they're having fun and they're training with each other. They go, they play every other weekend out there as a team. And they're out there and no one's really giving them the real direction on how to get better. They're just out there playing points and having fun. And at the end of the day, what's really fun is winning, right? And they're out there doing their best and they're practicing to get better, but they're only getting incrementally better. It's one of these situations that if they were to take one weekend off in a month and say, hey, rather than this month playing 2 practices, let's do 1. But let's bring somebody in with 10, 20 years of professional knowledge for the money we save by we all pitch in and we don't say, hey, we're not going to play. It costs us, $50 a piece to go play this weekend. Let's take it off. Let's save our money. 2 weeks from now, we're going to have somebody out and actually teach us how to get a lot better, and there's things that it's just easy. Anytime I go to a clinic with teams, like the first thing I go through is their calls and say, hey, what's our communication? We know paintball is super mental sport and a lot relies on communication. And I see some of the calls that these teams have and I'm like, oh my gosh, who came up with this stuff? Like, what do you guys, like, this is incredibly like the wrong way to do this. And through 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I can just give them one call that will make their team 15% better over the course of every tournament they play from then on out. And it's not that difficult to understand. It's just people sacrificing a little bit in the short term for long-term gains. And just, I look at it like this, I guarantee you that any one of these pros that I'm involved with, and I'll go with them in a second, can make your team better or make you better as an individual. And I told you right now that, hey man, I got a paintball gun. And this gun is going to have you shoot 5% more people from the time you pick it up for the rest of your career. Like, I don't care who you are, you're going to figure out a way to buy that gun. And that's the way I look at this. Like, save up your money, bring somebody in and actually get better. Like, buy some of this knowledge that's going to make you better at paintball. To me, it's just a no-brainer. If I would have had access and just knew these types of things when I was younger, trying to come up the ranks, like, I would 100% do it. Just have the access to these people in general. But to answer your other question, the people that are involved, so right now, we kind of went out there and we did a couple of things. We talked and spoke to people that we knew that were doing clinics, people that we trusted, people that were in different markets that would hopefully cut down costs to be able to drive to some of these different areas. And we decided to go with this crew. And we're probably going to expand as things go along, but I want to make sure that us as a company are providing enough work for the people that are involved with us. And then from them, we're going to expand on. We've already had other professionals reach out to us to say they want to be involved. So right now it's myself, Ronnie Dizon, Chad Boucher, Chad George, Cody Mikowski, Jesse Stevens, Keith Brown, Fedorov, Dimitri Ninos, Nick Sloviak, Patrick Kraft, Rainey Stanzak, Ryan Moorhead, Todd Martinez, Billy Bernaccia, A-Rod, Clint Johnson, and Brandon Cornell. So it's a list. We could put together a pretty good 20-man team.
I was going to say, that sounds like a pretty badass 25-man team. Like, like we going to play a big game or what? I love it. It sounds great.
Yeah. Yeah. So how it works is you reach out to us and you kind of tell us what you're looking for. Hey, I'm an individual. Hey, I'm a team. I'm a clinic. I live here and we're looking to work on this. We want to work with this person. And then from there, we start negotiating the deals for, all right, what's your budget? I know what the players, the pros are asking for, and I try to work out the fairest deal possible to get you somebody over there. For us as a company, what our kind of the client is who we're trying to take care of the most and make sure that they're getting what they're looking for at an affordable price. And that's a lot of times there's a lot of there'd be more of this going on, in my opinion, if people just knew, what to ask for. And I think some pros are asking for too much, some are asking for too little. And I think it's just a way to standardize things and make sure that people are getting better out there. I don't think there's enough people taking advantage of this. There's a lot of people like Marcelo Margaret does a great job as a independent person, flying around. He does stuff with BKI. He does his own clinics. I think he does a great job, but there's only one Marcelo. He is playing Paintball Dynasty probably 15 weekends a year, if not more. That's 30 weekends that he has maybe to start doing clinics. And how many divisional paintball teams are there in the U.S. alone? Hundreds?
A lot.
So
hundreds.
In my opinion, hundreds, right? In my opinion, there should be the demand for coaches to be able to go and help people every weekend and elevate everyone. It's just not something that's being done a ton right now. And I think it's kind of a misuse of people's time and funds. They're just buying, the paint companies might not like this, but they're just buying tons of paint and they're just shooting at each other and reinforcing the same habits and just hoping they get better.
Yeah, but all the paint companies just want people to play paintball. And when you do better, that addicts you even more to the games. And the more, because think about it. If you want to be good at tennis, if you want to be good at jiu-jitsu, you want to be good at golf, if you want to box, like all of these things you show up and you hire a trainer, and then that trainer is going to teach you. If you want to box, they're going to be like, all right, this is a 1 and this is a 2 and this is a 3. And they take you through the numbers. And then you hit the pads, you hit the heavy bag, they take you through workouts and you pay that person money. If you want to learn jiu-jitsu, start as a white belt, karate, whatever it is, kickboxing, same thing. If you want to, hit golf balls, and every single course has a pro there, and you go, and if you really want to take lessons, and you get lessons from the pro, and every single golf course I think on planet Earth has a pro associated with it if they're worth anything. It doesn't matter. This is literally every single sport, but in paintball, it's not like that. If you go to the paintball field, you're probably getting beat up on by the more experienced players. And not every single one. And obviously most fields that are legit do a really good job of separating the different the skills. All right, intermediates over here, beginner walk-ons over here, et cetera, tournament players, you guys got your own field, whatever. But there's not typically there's not like a pro at the field that you show up and you take lessons from that guy. And you're right. Yeah. Marcelo does an amazing job. Ryan does an amazing job. People have been teaching these clinics for a long period of time. I've taught clinics back in the day, but they're, to have a much more regimented and a way to go about getting a very qualified person to your field, I think it's a great idea. So that's why when I saw it, I was like, all right, we got to get Ryan on and talk about this, because this is something that is needed more within the framework of the sport of paintball, because there's I'm not going to say a lot of bad paintball being played. There's just a lot of paintball being played that could be better. And you can hyperdrive your skills out there by just, like you said, investing in yourself a little bit and your team by bringing somebody out that knows what they're doing, because that's how it's done in every single sport. So why will we not do it the same way in paintball? Yeah, it just definitely makes a lot of sense.
It's really weird that we don't do it and haven't, just because the access to paintball players, pros, is so much easier than these other sports. So you don't have the opportunity. If say you play golf, like, you're not going to get Tiger Woods to be your pro at the field when he retires. You're going to get the guy that was on the tour and did, never placed, right? But he still knows a lot about golf. But you look at paintball, like, there's not an opportunity right now for professionals when they retire to really be involved, in a financial, to make it worth their while. Like John Richardson right now, the amount of knowledge that's in John's head to make someone better, but no one's reaching out to John to say, hey man, like, come teach me, I'll compensate you for your time. Like if he was a golf pro or a tennis pro. So much knowledge, just people retire and then it's just gone. And I think that's kind of a loss. And I think this is a way for this ecosystem should happen to allow players to get better and some of these pros to start being compensated for the knowledge that they have and can actually help people with.
Yeah, so again, it's just such a no-brainer. Again, it just makes so much sense, because if you ever do whatever it is, you want to trade stocks, you want to, learn how to manage a business. I mean, you go pay somebody that knows what they're doing, you figure out those skills, and then you can take that and when you're doing an activity like paintball, it makes everything better. So I'm really glad you guys are doing this. I'm excited to see this take off. Again, I've been a fan of all these. I try to give everyone their shine, and I just feel like this definitely deserves some shine. So just before we kind of move on to some other topics, which I want to pick your brain on, want to talk about the team, want to talk about the league, your opponents coming up here heading into 2021. Where's the call to action? Give everyone again the website, and you already went through the roster a little bit, but how do people get in touch with okay, I'm a team, I'm in Nebraska, and I want to bring a pro out, but my favorite pro's from Florida. Keith Brown's my boy. I want Keith Brown to come out. Whatever. I'm just throwing it out there. Like, how does that happen?
Okay. So right now, if you go to pbproschool.com, it's really easy. There's multiple places on the site. You hit, book now. It's a contact us form that goes to an email inbox. Super responsive. You're going to get contacted fairly quickly by myself, Ronnie Gison, or Yaya. And then we just start a conversation. And a lot of times it's getting on that phone and kind of working out the system of what works best for everybody, all parties involved. And then we're going to get a guy out, the guy that you want, out to you and help you play better. If you want to, you can also find us on Instagram. I think it's pb.pro.school. You can DM us there. A couple people are just DMing us, and we're starting conversations through there as well.
Yeah, it's huge, man. I think this is, like I said, super crucial, because these things are transferable, and it will make your paintball adventure a lot more fun, and who knows how far you can get. So all right, so let's talk about X Factor here a little bit. So you guys lost a big guy recently. You lost Woodley. Now Woodley hasn't been on the squad forever, but he immediately was an elite guy for you guys. He came back and helped you out a little bit. Other than that, obviously, you guys aren't really making changes. I mean, the team looks outstanding. Definitely another huge favorite again. And I kind of want to go through some of these favorites every time I get a guy your caliber on here. I mean, you're a legendary coach. You've really helped. And we talked about how difficult it is to help lead a charge with players of the caliber of San Antonio X Factor, because there are so many different personalities and so many good paintball players that you have to bring into that maelstrom that is the pit to figure out the plays to go and represent and have them execute in order to do as well as you guys have done recently. So let's kind of crack into that. But let's talk about Woodley first, just because that is kind of the newest news that has broken recently concerning at least your team and what's going on. So what happened there? I'm assuming he was probably asking for way too much money, and then Damage was like, we need to get Damage, because Damage is trying to make moves this year, And Damage is like, we need Impact, dude. Who can we get? Let's get. Well, looks like we can get LJ. Let's get LJ. So it is a big pickup for them. But let's talk about LJ coming on the team first, because he was a big guy for you, and it was a cool story. We had him on the show not too long ago.
Yeah, absolutely. I love LJ. He kind of played for us for 2 different stints over the course of the past 3 seasons. And this last time, he really helped us out in the bind. What happened? After we won the Philly tournament, we were going in to try to defend that, and Nick Sloviak his wife was going to have a baby, and it was one of those last minute. We had a practice, the first practice weekend. It went fine, but we just kind of realized that the rotation we like to use was just not able to do without enough bodies there. So everyone's heard the story. LJ came in, off the couch and came out there, and he had a finals MVP performance. He won the finals MVP, right? Like, that's amazing. Off the couch, he helped us win that tournament. I would say that our chances of winning that tournament without LJ there it probably looks different. It's hard to say in retrospect, but he definitely made a huge part in us winning there. And so we came in, and we got, Nick back for World Cup. LJ came back last year, and it's one of those things, like, I love LJ, and I don't know the best way to put it. A team is like, I guess you did you wrote something for the roster season 2. I don't know if you remember it, about how a team's like a recipe of you're cooking. You did the voiceover for it, and you might have it in your head somewhere. And that's really what it is. There's a lot of different, parts to a team and personalities, and you're constantly trying to manage everything. And we got done with this last year, and we knew we were more than likely bringing TJ in. And it was one of those things that, there's only so many spots for everyone to play. And, we talked to LJ a bit, and it just, came to the decision that, he wasn't going to be with us going into this next year. And I love LJ, and it was a very difficult decision, but we just kind of parted ways at that point. But I knew he'd have options. And so whenever I got the call from Joey Blute that when he found out LJ was no longer with us, I sung LJ's praises, because it was difficult, because I obviously know that LJ's a stud and Damage is a really good team. So kind of helping our ex-player go over the Damage and potentially be a huge thorn in our side, I knew that was going to might bite me. At the same time, like, LJ's a good dude. He's a great player. If he can, go over to a good team and get paid to do it, like, I'm going to help him do that. So that's kind of the LJ story. So I wish him the best.
Yeah, I mean, he is one of the, when I was just seeing, do you see so much paintball and elite center threats like LJ, and I know he wants to diversify his attack, but as good as he can be on his best days, he really is a game changer. And that's why we have that, that term elite that we don't throw around very much. But he can be very elite. I mean, if you can win an MVP and help a team win, I mean, that's what catapults you into that elite status. And he's had a cool career, really nice guy, man. I really love LJ, and I think he is going to make Damage better. But you guys are pretty stacked, I mean, one of the blessings that you guys have, I mean, is just so many guys that have been around for a long time, and you've been able to pull the LJs and the Nick Sloviaks. And I mean, even if you go back, like getting a Billy Bernaccia, I mean, he's not a Texas guy, but X Factor has been able to attract whatever talent that you need to get when you need to get it. And then if they are the right fit, make them a part of the squad. I mean, Billy's kind of a surrogate Texan at this point, because he's been on the team for so long.
Yeah.
I mean, even though that's kind of funny to say, because the dude is about as Northeast as it gets with the accent and everything, but he really is. I mean, he's just such a diehard, snake guy for X Factor. But let's just talk about that talent real quick. Kind of remind everyone, if we can just kind of go through the guys on the team right now and just remind everyone the talent and the depth that you do have. Let's start on the snake side and how you're kind of looking at, what you've seen in the past. As far as the competition out there. Again, we don't have to get super into the weeds, like player to player, position to position. I just kind of want to remind everyone how good X Factor is. So yeah, you just lost John Woodley, but this is a team that's going to be pretty ridiculous until you start losing guys to retirement, because I really feel that guys like Colt, guys like Archie, they're just getting better. I mean, I've seen them play so well in the past couple seasons. I mean, guys like Meter, guys like Jesse, Billy. I mean, it just, the older they get, the better these guys are. The older they get, the more refined their game is becoming, the better decisions that they're making. And I just think I think that X Factor is going to really be a threat until those guys lose the desire to be elite. And I just don't see that yet. So let's start on the snake side with Billy and kind of work our way over. Give me your thoughts on Billy Bernaccio.
I mean, that was where we struck gold, I think, is as getting Billy. He's just become one of the guys, as far as the very deep core members of our team. And it's just one of those things that there's only so many people that can even be honestly mentioned in the same breath as Billy in that position. And I think that is the hardest position to fill in paintball, is an elite snake player. And you honestly could probably count them on one hand, and you would probably have a hard time there. And then there's a couple other guys that are lingering around as maybe being really good, and then it really just falls off. So having someone like Billy is huge for us, and it gives us an edge in a lot of games. And so I think that's a huge strength for us is Billy. And the other thing is that other than that, like Billy demands, he's so good, it's hard to take him off the field. And that's one thing that we need to get a little bit better at, is trying to get him some more breaks. But as a coach, it's difficult, where I say, all right, I'm going to take one of the most elite guys out there and sit him on the bench to catch his breath. And Billy's always, he's one of those, got that personality that always used to say he's ready to go as well. So it's trying to be like, no, you're not. You need to take one off, but it's a little fight. So, Billy on that snake side, a lot of times we have, Archie backing him up, or Meter, or Rainey. Obviously some people know the way I like to coach is I like to mix it up. So it's not, I guess, redundant, if you will, for the other team to be able to pick up on tendencies. But, we're strong over there. I think just as a whole, Meter to me is the guy that's just really stepped it up, the leaps and bounds to the next level in his game. We've had a lot of guys that have been good for a long time, and Meter has gone from good to very good to great very quickly. And I think that's just one of those things that's where we kind of gotten our edge, to where Meter was someone that, and maybe part of the reason for LJ's departure is that Meter was a guy when he first came over to us from the Ironman or Aftershock or wherever he was kicking around before, he was playing 50% of the reps or a little bit less. And he's gotten to the point where it's difficult for me to take him off the field. And so I got Archie, how are we going to take him off the field? Rainey, am I supposed to sit him? And then, now Meter's over there shooting someone off the break every point. It's one of those we don't really need to, I don't personally want to just hoard talent like Impact. It's just not necessarily my style. And so, going through that, you got go ahead.
I wouldn't describe what X Factor is doing as hoarding talent. However, when you look at your roster and how many guys have kind of started to prove themselves as the elite status that we talk about, first of all, you guys are second place at World Cup, very close game, almost had a come from behind victory against Dynasty. It went into overtime. Insane, awesome performance. Little disappointing finish at the first event with the 8th. Only those 2 events, but then coming off that insane year last year, 2 wins in a row, a 3rd at Cup, series title. But if you look at your roster, it's pretty nasty, Ryan. You have a ridiculous roster. That's why I just wanted to remind everyone, and we're going to be having different conversations. Also, we got some great shows coming up. We got Oliver Lane coming on the show soon. We got Mike Kimman coming on the show next week. I think we're getting Oliver next week too. So it's just going to get interesting story-wise here in 2021. But since you guys started the PB Pro School thing and I had you in the seat, I'm like, we got to talk about this insane roster you guys have had now for seasons because it's so nasty. So sure, you're not hoarding talent because it's your talent, but when you go player to player across the field, because like you said on the snake side, you're throwing names out there. So let's talk about Rainey. Rainey was as lights out as you can be as a stud star, as an elite player. That's what he was at World Cup. It was so nasty and fun to watch. If you guys had won, he would have won the MVP hands down. I mean, it was him and Ryan Greenspan were just going to war for their squads out there. It was just that's paintball, man. It was so fun as a fan to call that and to see it happen. He had such a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, if you look at Rainey too, it's like, I think Rainey came out here and spoke about the conversation we had before, but we knew we weren't going to have Colts going into World Cup, but we thought we were going to have Archie. And once Archie went down, halfway through her second game there, it was one of those things where, some guys maybe had their head down a little bit, but Rainey just decided he was just going to put everything on his back and just go forward. And just honestly, stats are stats. I think Rainey should have gotten that golden barrel or whatever thing it is. I think, Tyler Harmon got some of those kills off the break. We're getting credited to the wrong person because Tyler was shooting nasty off the break there. In that match, you look about it, we went to the wire, lost in overtime, unfortunate, core sample might have hurt us there, maybe not. But we did it without, as you say, two of our best, often, without Colt and Archie. So that just kind of shows how deep it was. And it was a good moment for us. Like, trust me, I want to win, but you go back and you look at it and we got to see what Jesse Stevens can do, how strong he's playing. And then Cody Bayless, who I don't know, a lot of people don't know Cody's story, but Cody, was one of the original X Factor members. He went pro with us in 2006, played until maybe about 2009, and then got into the military and retired for 10 years. And then came back, he came back maybe a year and a half ago with just, obviously it's an uphill battle for him, but we knew Cody is one of our guys. So we're going to give him the shot and just, event after event, he's playing a couple points here. He'd go to tournaments, play 2 points. But, when Archie went down, Cody went off, and he's one of the reasons that we were that comeback at in the finals. Like, Cody got us back in that, so it's one of those things too. Like, I'm really excited to see what Cody can do. And obviously I would rather have Cody, one of our original guys, be the guy in the field than someone we're paying from another state. That's just kind of who we are as a squad. And that's who we've always wanted to be. So I might be missing somebody, but I mean, Cody, Jesse, Meter's playing great, Rainey. And now we're really excited about and now we're really excited for TJ Danner. Yeah.
Yes. So that's why I wanted to say, I wanted to kind of save TJ for last, because I feel like there's a decent amount to unpack with TJ. Because it's talking about hoarding talent, which and you guys aren't. But that's what's kind of special about the X Factor story, is that this is a homegrown team. Like you said, you brought Cody Bayless back, and you're right, man. For somebody that has been away from the game as long as he had some good looks out there. And the fact that you guys did do as well as you did with no Archie Montemayor and no Colt Roberts. So Archie got hurt, so he played a little bit at the event, but he didn't play deep into the event. Colt wasn't there at all, and it's not just, it's like, as you say, two of our best players. That's not just me saying that. That's just how it's been on X Factor for years. Colt Roberts and Archie Montemayor have been two of the best on not just on X Factor, but on planet Earth. And it's been really fun to watch them play. But like you said, to see Meter go from being, a good up and coming guy that a lot of people were touting as somebody that could be elite one day, but wasn't there yet. He went from team to team to team, team to team. We've had Meter on the show to talk about this before. He's discussed it. But to see the player he's become recently has been awesome. It's been so fun to see that catalyst happen in his mind, and to just kind of find the form that he needs to, and the place to fit in, in the roster. So God, that's what I'm saying. Like, it must be, when I talked about how hard it is to coach San Antonio X Factor, a lot of the difficulty surrounding, that the instances that you are confronted with constantly is, who do I play and where? And I mean, now if you get Colt back, you get a healthy Archie, and you have all these guys playing as well as they're playing. I mean, that, not a bad problem to have, but a problem nonetheless, because now you're in that Impact situation where an Impact had 10 dudes and everyone's amazing, and they go with two starting fives. And then they get to Sunday and they go, all right, well, do we play one starting five because they won X amount of points? Do we go with a mixed roster, or, do we go both of the starting fives, or do we do a mixed roster? We put them together, the best of the best. That's something you might be confronted with in 2021. So I got to ask you about that. What are your thoughts on that moving forward? When you and then we'll get to TJ. But I just answer me that question real quick, and then we'll get to TJ.
Okay. Guys are stepping up, and we're trying to kind of figure it out. We have a rotation we kind of stick with. It's not 2 lines, but it's kind of filtering everybody out there kind of an equal amount of reps for the most part. And then from there, it's kind of just trying to get some people some more rest and not being so tied to the guys that are in the past. We've kind of like, hey, these are our studs, and then these are our other guys. And we're just trying to figure out how to make sure we're giving people equal opportunities to show what they got. Because I think Jesse or Cody, once they get reps that aren't like, hey, don't fuck up or you're going to get pulled out here. And I think that's what hurts a lot of people when they say, hey, you're going to get a set amount of reps, that they're able to shine, and they might, you don't know. Cody might be playing better than Meter, or Jesse might be playing better than Rainey. And then that's who we need to go in with on Sunday. So it's just kind of figured out. And the other thing too is that, Alex can still ball. And so Alex, that's one guy we haven't talked about. And
and
he's losing weight, he's getting in shape. So, and George might come in too. You never know. So it's one of those things that, we're looking to mix it up and have different looks out there.
Yeah, again, that's just the potency of the lineup is having those options. It really makes you guys, because also the way you're using those chess pieces, it makes you guys a lot harder to scout. And I really thought that that's when you guys started to shine out there on Sunday, is when Jesse and Meter really started picking things up. Obviously having the Billy and the Billy's and the Colts and the Archies playing the way they were, and you get Woodley out there, but just having all of these different puzzle pieces, everyone playing really well. And you guys would line up sometimes and I'm like, I don't really know exactly where Archie's going to go here. I don't know where Ryan's going to send Jesse. And that was when you guys started to get really difficult to beat, because everyone was playing lights out, and it also was really hard to predict what was going to happen out there. So you combine great paintball, great communication, good teamwork with unpredictability. Well, that's a recipe for going deep into Sunday. And that's what we saw, in that last season. And then you got, for you guys to go to Cup and lose your 2 best players, and for you guys to do as well as you did, it just, everyone out there is a fool if you don't think that X Factor is a legit contender again to be the best team in the world this upcoming season. So let's talk about TJ Danner, because before I let you go, I do want to talk about some of the other best teams in the world and your thoughts on their looks and what your competitors out there and who you guys are going to be battling with for that moniker best team in the world. But let's talk about TJ Danner. I really think this is good for the longevity of the team. It's obviously he's a Texan, so it fits right in with the vibe. So he's not someone you have to fly in from out of state. And he's a little bit younger, but he's got a ton of experience in the game. He's a great D-side consistent killer. TJ Danner, what are your thoughts on him?
Honestly, we've been trying to talk to TJ for a while now, and he's just a very loyal dude. And he wanted to win with AC. That was his goal. And I think he's still a little sad that didn't happen, but I think once the writing was on the wall that team was not going to be the same team, we finally got our hooks in there a little bit more. But TJ has a huge brain on him, and he's a rock out there. And that's something a little bit different, that we have. We have our guys, and then, we do have a lot of wild cards out there, it's like, and guys that can make stuff happen. But sometimes when you got a bunch of wild cards running around, and that's just been our style, it's good to have that rock out there communicating, staying alive, and out there closing out points. So that's kind of a thought of ours for a long time, is that, how to bring TJ over. The fact that he's a Texan is huge. It means something to Alex. The guys, he wants more guys from Texas. And as far as Alex is concerned, Billy is from Texas. He just, sometimes goes away.
I was just going to say, he wants to cut Billy Bernaccio. Yeah. Ryan, what is going on? This is ridiculous. Yeah. I can't believe Alex would say that about Billy.
Yeah, of course. And our guys are, our family, but the fact he was there, it means something. We want to be a Texas team. We don't really want to, we want to rep Texas. It means something to us. It's, a little, tribalistic in nature, I guess, but that's what it is. And so, it just really makes sense. I think it's huge for us, and just have a very, cerebral, smart player in our system to help us be even better than we were.
Well, and also too, because the way he plays, having a Jesse, having a Colt, having a TJ, having an Archie, having a Cody, having these different options on the D side, again, it's just going to make you guys less scoutable depending on the layout and how everyone's playing. It's just kind of a ideal situation for you, again, but also going to make it a little difficult because you have to decide who's going to play and where. But each one of those guys has a different has different gears in different times based on their situations. And having an aggressive guy like Cody and Jesse, and then obviously Archie as well too when he gets going. And same with Colt, but then TJ, it's like those are all different styles. And how are they all going to mix together as the attackers on that side? And then how is that going to take pressure off the snake side? Can any of obviously some of those guys could go snake side too. It just gives you so many options, man. And like I said, anyone out there trying to take bets on 2021 is a fool if X Factor is not in your equation. Let's talk about some of these other teams. Let's talk about Houston Heat. Since you're one of the top coaches in the sport, you've earned that title with how well you have managed a difficult to coach team like San Antonio X Factor to the heights that you've taken them to. Houston Heat now picking up Todd Martinez as a coach. Really, they haven't made any moves player-wise in years, but they won 2 World Cups in a row until Dynasty won this last one. So I'm just going to throw Houston Heat at you. Todd Martinez now taking over the ship. What do you think?
I think Todd will give them an immediate, noticeable boost. Just if you look at Heat, they lost their consistency as like the most dominant team around the same time that Trozen was no longer there. And I'm not, they had Sam in there for a little bit. They had Ryan in there. They had Sarge in there. And they just kind of, it's not that any of those guys did a terrible job. It's just you watch them in the pit, and it's a lot of it is like the guys are calling the plays themselves lately. It's kind of like, it just kind of goes to show how good individually, how much talent is on that team, that they were honestly player coaching for the most part and going out there and winning matches. And on, once a year, they're winning a tournament and the hardest tournament to win. So in my opinion, Todd going in there is like he's gonna be able to get the right people on the field and call the plays. And I'm sure he's going to do a hell of a lot more than that. But just right there, getting the right 5 guys on the field and telling them what to do so the players don't have to worry about it, they're 30% better immediately. And then Todd can go and work the rest of his magic. So they're going to be a lot better, more consistently. They always have the talent to beat anybody. They're just going to be consistently more organized and better for it.
I couldn't agree more. To me, it's if you look at how well Houston Heat has done, you said a couple things I totally agree with. One, it is a testament to how good individually those players are, how well they know the game, winning 2 World Cups in a row. And I mean, if you go back 2 years ago, a 5th, a 1st, a 5th, 3rd, 1st place overall series title World Cup win. That was 2018, 2019, a 2nd, a 4th, a 5th, a 3rd, a 1st. Another World Cup win. This is with a revolving. Who's their coach? Well, is it Sam? Is it Ryan? Is it Sarge? But just that team, it speaks to the strength of the team. Now this year in 2020, unfortunate turn of events for them. Obviously crazy with everything in the pandemic, but 2 9th place finishes for them, and they hadn't picked up any players because of how well they'd done. And I've talked about this on the show before. I've talked to Sarge about this. He's like, would you pick up anyone? I get all these guys hitting me up all the time, but my team's really good. Do I mess with that vibe? And it's kind of hard to tell them to mess with that vibe. But picking up Todd as their coach, I think is, like you said, I think it immediately makes them better, because when you go down and you look at how expensive coaches are on planet Earth, the people that coach football, soccer in overseas in Europe, the people that coach college football where the players make 0 money. In fact, they they can't have any access to money at all. They get any sponsorship, then they're going to get completely screwed. But their coaches are going to make millions of dollars. Why is that? Because there are $1 million, it's millions and millions and millions of dollars at stake, but also because it is very difficult to motivate talented individuals. When you go and look at these coaching documentaries, and there are so many of them, but it's just so fascinating, the mental games that have to be played to get incredibly talented individuals to show up every single day and be their best selves. That's why those people are worth their weight in gold. The people that guide those people to their best selves. And a guy like Todd Martinez is good at that. He's good at that. A guy like yourself, you're good at that. You guys have proven this. So I think that Heat picking up Todd was the smartest decision that they could possibly make, way more important than picking up players, because they obviously look at their results with the guys they have. I mean, the results prove how good of a team that is and how good those players are. We could argue this guy, that, here, talent, this or that, but the results prove themselves with how hard it is to win at the sport. Picking up Todd is massive. Let's move on to San Diego Dynasty, just because they were your guys' competitor. Unless you have some last thoughts about Houston Heat, but since I can't keep you here all night, and I mean, you and I could bullshit about this forever, but I do want to get through a couple of these other top teams before I let you go. Let's talk about Dynasty. I mean, Dynasty beat you guys by the hair of their chinny chin chin at World Cup in the finals. And it was one of the most fun games to watch in recent memory. A little heartbreaking for you guys, but Dynasty is also a very interesting squad. Another great coach, Rusty Glaze. Outstanding paintball mind. Been around forever. He's been playing this game at its highest level for a long period of time, and then coaching it at its highest level. That's a team that has struggled a little bit on the snake side, and they struggled in the finals against you guys on the snake side. But you guys kept losing Billy. So let's just I just want to talk about Dynasty as a squad right now and how you're looking at them as an opponent here in 2021.
So I have a lot of respect for that team as a whole, always have. I do think they still don't necessarily have it figured out on the stake side. And they beat us in overtime with Marcelo as their snake one. And not that he can't do it, because he used to do it on the Russians very well, in my opinion, but he wasn't even trying. They literally went 4 guys to the Dorito way. So I think they are going to still have to address that in order to be extremely dangerous. I think they could easily, I'm not trying to help them too much, but all you do is split up Tyler and Dalton and they have the problem solved. So it's not that they can't do it. So there's a lot of talent there.
Like, I'm not gonna help them too much, but just do this, and you guys have your problem solved.
Yeah, there's all. Sorry, but I like those guys. But yeah, Rusty's great. The team's good. Ryan Greenspan's like 65 years old and still can hold his gun forward and straight and shoot people. So I think it's one of those situations that they're a good team. I think they've been that way. I've always looked at Dynasty until recently that they'd go and lose a tournament, get knocked out, and I would look at them and like they were just kind of like they weren't all that pissed off about it. And I don't know if that's just after you win 50 tournaments and it's just been there, done that, but they just seemed like they were just stuck in a rut of getting 4th place, and maybe that's gone, because I think that's a big thing, is that you got to get pissed about your losses if you want to win. So now they've won, so we'll see what happens.
I'll leave it up to Dynasty to make it dramatic. Their 20th anniversary event in 2020, and they're wearing their uniforms from 20 years ago, and sure enough, that's the one they win in overtime against you guys. It was about as dramatic as it's going to get. Almost gave up a huge lead too. But yeah, I think that I've seen Arturo Andrade and Mike Urena play some amazing paintball on that snake side. But it's all about consistency at the top level. And this is why you said a guy like Billy Bernacchi is worth his weight in gold. You're going to see games, and we just saw one where Billy's going to go out there and he's going to get shut down completely. He's going to get shot off the break 5 times and not really be a factor. That's how hard it is to be an elite snake one in professional paintball. I mean, it's going to happen. And you just have to deal with those moments, and it's inevitable. But how consistently are you going to be at that elite status? Billy has proven himself to be an elite snake player, which is why he's on an elite team like San Antonio X Factor. And that's kind of the thing that still is, like I really like those guys. I think they're working hard, and I think they have a lot of potential. But that's what Dynasty needs. They need one of those guys to become an elite snake player. They had, and they've cycled through a couple guys. Looked like Matty Kling had had some signs of life over on that side a couple years ago. They had to let him go. Arturo also, when he's been on, he has an insane snapshot, and he's got a really good work ethic. He's a great guy, and he could be that guy. Urena, possible too. We'll see, but they don't have a consistent elite snake presence quite yet. We'll see what happens in 2021. Obviously, the rest of the team is outstanding, and they did win the World Cup. So, yeah, I mean, they're going to be a favorite again. But I think they have that desire there still, because you can't do this forever. You definitely can do it for a long period of time, and I've made this argument quite a bit. You're looking at the seasoning, because some people are like, oh, my God, our best players are getting older. I'm like, dude, do you watch mixed martial arts? And these dudes are getting punched in the face. Like, some of the best fighters on planet Earth are in their late 30s and early 40s, and that's mixed martial arts. Paintball is less grueling on your body than mixed martial arts is. Obviously, everyone's body is different, but I do think that some of our best can continue to do it a little bit farther down the line. We'll see, but there will eventually be this turnover. I want to get your thoughts on AC Dallas, just because I know it's going to be a completely different team, and then AC Diesel. So let's kind of combine the AC Dallas, AC Diesel conversation. To me, it's pretty frustrating to see the destruction of AC Dallas as a team that could potentially win a tournament, just because they were so close for so long, 4 times in the finals, just couldn't find a way to get that win. Like you said, it was hard to get TJ to come on your team because he wanted to win with AC Dallas, and it just didn't work out. But again, that's why this is so rewarding when you do actually win a tournament, because it's really hard to win a professional paintball tournament. So, and as a Texan, I wanted to get your thoughts on, because I think Diesel could be legit this year. I mean, Diesel looked really good at World Cup. They were one of the best looking teams in the prelims. I really like the guys they have on that squad. They are also very experienced and talented and aggressive. And it's a different vibe than Dallas, but I think Diesel could surprise people here at an event in 2021. What do you think, Ryan?
So we're talking, I'll go Dallas first. I think, so Dallas, I mean, most people know, but it's essentially Paintball Fit for the most part. The divisional team that was an amazing story of winning every damn tournament. They played at Division 4 and Division 3. They played Division 2 last year, and I think they were like a 5th, 3rd place team. So they were getting there. But that's moving up quickly. And now they're going to jump semi-pro and go right in there. And I think it's going to take them a little bit of time. But what those kids do have is, to my understanding, they play more than anybody else. Obviously they have their own field. They're playing all the time. And they know how to win, and obviously winning at the pro level or semi-pro is completely different, but knowing how to win is important. And that's why I think some teams jump divisions too quickly. It's just something about learning what it takes in the finals. I don't care if it's Division 5 or Division 2. It's just, you need to know what it takes to actually accomplish that goal. So they have that box ticked. Obviously they have Greg. They're going to get great sparring partners with Diesel. So their fast track to success is a better situation than other 19th, 18th, 17th place pro teams. They have more opportunity and access to knowledge than a lot of those teams do. For them, I think it's just how long can they hang in there, and can they hang in long enough to where their talent grows quick enough to understand the program. So I would anticipate tough sledding for them, but I wouldn't completely write them off. And another kid, they got, I think, some other guys picked up that I think we'll see. Diesel, I think they're going to be solid. I think they were always they earned their pro spot. We had some turnover going into last year. They earned their spot, and they have a really strong core. Some good players that I really like, and they got so they got the rest of what was left on AC Dallas. I think today they announced that they got Zach Hill and BJ Henningberg. They're losing. They lost Cam McCartney, which is going to sting. Cam's taking a break from paintball, and Nathan Roberts is also one of their better players. He's decided he wants to be a doctor or something, so he's got to keep going to med school. So he might be in and out. Yeah. But I think at World Cup they showed, and even at the first event, they showed that they can hang. And so I think they work hard. Mark Johnson is a driving force in paintball. And Clint Johnson's one of our ex-players. He's up there. He's one of the better players in the league. So I think they'll be really strong. Are they ready to win a tournament? I wouldn't say so yet. But as far as weapons, I would say that they have more. We're AC Dallas of past. We're kind of missing some aggressive weapons to kind of take it over the top. Diesel has weapons in spades. I think what they lost in Cam is going to sting. That's the role they're going to have to figure out how to fill. If a field slows down, do they have the experience to be able to play that slower field? But if it's a go field like World Cup, they're going to go far.
What do you think about? Let's talk about Revo. I feel like I'm trying to get Henry Sense to come on the show. Might get Frank Tomaso to come back on the show, but I feel like that's a squad that is just quietly always relevant. And I wanted to throw it to you and see what you have to say about them. I feel like that's somebody that could surprise people this next year. They always seem to be hanging around. They make Sundays. They found a way to get a little bit of deep. Haven't been to the finals yet, but they got a lot of talent on that squad.
Yes, I think that Revo is definitely the sleeper. If people are sleeping on them, I think that they've shown the most growth over the past year. They're now just consistently in every match. They're not getting blown out by anybody, and they're beating good teams. I think they're the reason Heat has such a terrible year last year was because of Revo. No one else was knocking them out of tournaments. It was Revo every time. I think they've kind of had a revolving door of like their core guys coming in and out. But I think they're kind of, as some of those 187 guys are not going to be there as much. And those are great players. They're finding players that are Revo players. They're not the old 187 guys. To be consistent. So like Zupa is playing well over there, and he's a Revo guy, right? He's playing every tournament. He's not Zaleski who can make half of them and goes in and out. I think they've been missing the consistency of having the same guys, at all the practices, at all the tournaments. So Omara's a nasty paintball player. Henry's super solid. They're a good squad. I know, we were, as X Factor, we're all talking about it because we knew Todd wasn't going to be with the Ironman. And to my understanding, he was talking to Heat and talking to Revo, and we're sitting there going, well, I don't know which one's worse, as far as like for us competing against them. Like he's either going to make Heat a threat to win every tournament again, or he's going to make Revo an actual threat to win tournaments, So it's, to me, I think they're just a little bit, a little bit maybe more consistent coaching. Maybe that might be it. I'm not sure. It's just being a little bit better and having consistent guys. And so even like at Cup, they had, Tom Guest step in, and Tom played well for him. I don't know if Tom plans on playing next year. Yeah. So to me, it's just, if they can get 7 guys at every tournament, then I think at some point Revo is a team in the finals.
I totally agree. I just look man to man at their core roster and like kind of just broke down. I really don't see a lot of holes. It's just, can they get their guys there on a regular basis? Because, Darula is outstanding. Max Trailer, Omara, Zaleski, Pike, Henry, all those guys are really good paintball players. And there's a reason why they are become kind of a constant presence on Sunday. And then the question for them is how good they have gotten and how long they've been doing this is like, where do you go from here? And I agree with you. I told this to Henry, I was like, dude, if you could get all of your guys to commit for one whole year, we're going to be there every practice. We're going to be at every tournament. We're going to make an extra practice weekend. Like, we're going to make this a really big part of our lives for this season. If you could do it for 2 years, I really feel like they'd make a couple big runs and have a chance to win some tournaments. But when they have guys kind of, dipping their toes in of being relevant, dipping their toes out, it's just kind of hard to get a consistent lineup that they can count on to make a big run, considering how hard it is and how good these teams are getting at the top level. But yeah, I'm a fan of Revo. I think it's a fun team to watch. And those guys are, yeah. So, but we are going to hear more from Revo coming up here. Again, like I said, we're trying to get some of the guys on to get a little bit better read on exactly how dialed in their roster is going to be. It definitely would have been huge if they could have got Todd. Let's talk about damage. I got two more teams to give you impact and damage before I let you go. Let's talk about damage first. That's where Woodley's going. Damage was at the Pro Invitational, the first event that I got to see this year. They were running a clinic out there. I mean, Keith even posted, so he's like, "Oh, New York Extreme attended my clinic this past weekend," even though it wasn't New York Extreme. It was, Tim Stetzel and Harris Hussein. Even though I like the roster that Harris brought with some of the guys to fill spots. But anyway, Keith Brown and the rest of the boys from Tampa Bay Damage, and like I said before, looked like Thanos out there with the Infinity Gauntlet just disappearing dudes. It was just, they had all the stones, just murdering people, putting up 2, 3, 4, 5 packs, making it look easy. It was nasty. What are your thoughts on damage for 2021?
They have a lot of talent just in all over the place. It's one of the situations that, Keith is elite. I think the only thing that's hurting Keith right now is that they're riding him really hard and kind of having that next guy go in. But you got Brian Smith right there as well, who's also used to be top 5, and he's still, now his second kind of run is a great paintball player. He's coming up quick, as far as like he's finding his form, and he's really strong out there. Both Edwards brothers. And same thing with, like Jacob has always been just a lethal player. And Jason, I think he flies a little bit under the radar more than he used to be, but Jason's nasty. And so it's like, you go over there, and if you get Brad healthy for a full tournament, and now you're adding LJ, it's just they have a lot of really good players. So I think it's one of those things, like you look at that roster and you start stacking it up to the other top rosters, there's no holes. Like there's absolutely not a hole on the damage roster. So then it really just comes down to organization, coaching, and getting a little bit lucky of who wins. That's really what paintball is. Like I don't look at that roster and say, oh, well, if you cut this guy and replace him with that guy, that they'd be a better team. You just can't do it to damage right now. Like they have their squad that's been playing together for most of them. Holiday, you can just kind of start tacking on guys to where it's not like they just have to run the same 5 guys. Like they have threats and multiple positions. So yeah, they're a scary team right now. And LJ's going to do nothing but help them, especially if you get a field layout with a strong center.
Yeah, damage is looking to really improve upon the performances that they have had. I really think that's a team that's going to be contending again for victories, and I couldn't agree with you more on that entire breakdown. We'll be having more guys from damage as we head towards the first event of the 2021 season for the pros. So my last team that I want you to kind of analyze a little bit and get an opinion on here is Edmonton Impact. Just because this is, it's Impact. I mean, they're one of the top tier teams. A couple changes for them and some frustrating performance for them at World Cup with the Canadians. They weren't able to get the Canadians there, and it's just, it was a crazy year. But what's your thoughts on Edmonton Impact here before I let you go?
I think for them, it's still just an immense amount of talent, and just trying to figure out how to piece it all together. And it just seems like the pieces haven't really clicked since the end of 2018, maybe. And they won that first tournament, 2019, but that was a weird field layout. Not saying they didn't earn it or anything, but it was just a layout where you played 5 guys and you called the same play every point. And that's where their talent shined, because they had 5 really talented guys out there shooting everybody. But they have tons of talent. It just isn't really clicking. And then if the Canadians do come back, then they have even more of a problem on their hands, as far as I'm concerned, as far as like where everyone's going to play. They just have a ton of really good paintball players, and where the pieces go together. I'm sure not having Bart around is not easy. I think with Bart and Dave, that's really a 2-headed monster. And I'm sure Dave's having his shoulder, more than he's used to on that team. And I'm sure he's doing a good job of it, but not having Bart in the huddle has to hurt. Like that's the heartbeat of their team. So, but they've added A-Rod and Fuzzy as the last 2 players they've added. Like, what are those? two, those are two Golden Barrel winners of people that you just added onto Impact and tacked them on there. So when we're talking about hoarding talent, like they're doing it, they have it. So for them, I would say they're very scary if they figure out how their system's going to work and how they want to get on the field together and all that. They're good. I think not having Zach hurts a lot. It's being and JC is just kind of that threat. You don't know where he's going as far as scoutability and what he's going to do. But they have enough talent to plug it in, so they can beat anybody any day. I'm a little surprised. I don't know. I think they have just as much talent, if not more, as when they were winning, 2 out of every 4 tournaments.
Well, and that's what's going to be interesting for them, because as you well know, though, it's not just the talent you're putting out on the field. You have superstar teams. It's the caretaking of the talent, how the talent caretakes their mentality and how they bring their intensity to the field and how they work together. I mean, there's so many of these very difficult things to kind of weigh. These are a lot of subjective things that we're discussing when it takes a team like Edmonton Impact, or what it takes to get them to victory. Now, when I say a disappointing year for them last year, two third places, but they lost pretty bad to Dynasty at World Cup. It took, and then we only had 2 events last year. We go to World Cup in 2019 in 8th place there. And then, we got to track all the way back to Vegas of 2019 in order for them, to put a first place on the board. Now, again, this is Edmonton Impact. They're one of the most successful teams in the world. And 2 third places last year and 3rd place overall is not bad. But this is a team that if they don't get wins, then they failed. So that's the measure of greatness for Edmonton Impact. Did we win? No. Okay, then we failed. And if we're not winning, then we're failing. That's how it's going to be, as long as there's an Edmonton Impact. And so that's a really high level of greatness to constantly aspire to. But I do agree that they do have an insanely talented roster. Picking up A-Rod and picking up picking up Matt is just like you said, adding golden barrels to your roster. Not necessarily a bad thing. Where do they fit in on the attack? I mean, wherever they can. I mean, Jesus Christ, dude, we got Matt Jackson. He should be able to play wherever we put him. And then A-Rod does what A-Rod does. He's typically the shoot off the break or attack up the center. He can play as the 2 or the 1 up the gut. And those guys are worth their weight in gold. And then kind of as we go through the rest of the roster, how are they going to be able to get the Canadians? I do agree that not having Zach in there is huge. How motivated are they all going to be? We will see, but definitely going to be interesting to see what happens to Edmonton Impact in 2021 once we get to that first one. Anyway, Ryan, thank you so much for sitting down with me. I always appreciate your thoughts on everything. I really love what you guys are doing with the PB Pro School. Give everyone that information just real quick again, as far as where they can get in touch with you guys, and as far as booking clinics and booking pros and coaches is concerned, to get them out to their squads to make paintball better, to make them better.
Yeah, just pbproschool.com. Click that contact us in the top right hand of your screen right now, and then I'll give you a phone call. And then we can talk paintball.
All right, bud. Well, thank you so much again for sitting down with me. Best luck to you and the team this year. Best wishes to you and your family. Hope you guys are staying safe out there, and try to stay warm. Like you said, I hear it's getting pretty nasty and disgusting and cold out in Texas. When is your guys' first big practice, though?
So we practiced last weekend. We had everybody in, and it was cool to kind of scrimmage with our semi-pro field team out of the field. And we played the TJ All-Stars as well. So it was cool to play some non-pro teams, which is something we don't do typically. And then on March 20th, we'll have some more information, but I think we're going to have a pretty big pro practice down here in Texas. So maybe 7 or 8 different pro teams heading down to San Antonio to kind of spar it out. So just kind of nice. Getting people up and getting tuned up for the NXL event that is hopefully, fingers crossed, happening at the end of April.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Ryan, I love you, buddy. Take care. And thank you guys so much for joining us. Like I said, we got some awesome shows coming up. We got Oliver Lang and Mike Kimmin next week. Was hoping to get one of them tomorrow. That doesn't look like it's going to be the case. Still might have somebody sitting in the seat tomorrow. But yeah, Mike Kimmin and Oliver Lang. Oliver's going to be talking about his new headband company. And then Mike Kimmin going to be talking about, of course, got to talk about his company, got to talk about Aftermath, and going to be giving him all the same questions I just gave Ryan. We'll see you guys next week.